long as it doesn't crash. Okay, here we go. All right, we're on episode 3, Low Sodium Gaming Podcast. My name's Kris. Rob, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Rob, all right. Okay, so I know that we're recording, but do you want since this is our episode 3, do you like when you say Kris, do I say and this is Rob
It's up to
coming
you.
up?
It's up to you, man. It's however you want to do it.
All right, so yes, this is Rob, and we are super excited to talk to you today about a certain subject. But before that, I think Kris, you started a tradition that we talk about the video game that we're playing for the week. So let's start. Like Kris, let it to me straight. Which game are you playing right now that
Well,
you're like?
it's not so much about what I'm playing, but what I finished playing. I finally beat Elden Ring on
Oh
Friday.
crap!
Yeah, man, I finally beat it. Hold on, let me give you the exact count. So like I really think it was because I was playing it on my handheld rather than on my computer. I think there were like some latency issues and stuff like that. I didn't notice it while I was playing it, but
Hmm.
when I hopped on the PC, when I hopped on my computer and started playing it, I noticed a big difference and I started doing a lot better. It only took me a few times to actually like kill him, but
Hmm.
yeah, I finally beat it, man. 140 hours. Yeah, 140 hours on the dot is
Man, that's
what
awesome.
Steam has me at. That game.
Man.
So like last time when you were talking about like the open world and like different things, man, like this game like is right up your alley. Like it's right there, man. It's hard to put my finger on exactly why I like it so much because there's so many things about it. Everything from like the different builds you can have for your character. Like if you pick a certain type of character, right? Like if you pick a samurai or you pick a knight or a priest or something like that, you can just change it. You can be like, I
Hmm.
don't want to do that anymore, and just change it midway through. You put like 60 hours in, be like, I don't want to do that anymore because you discover so much. And you're like, I really I really want to use these big ass swords, right?
Hmm.
And then you can
Hmm.
just switch it all up, or like yeah. Anyway, finally done with it. I started playing Destiny 2 this today.
Yeah,
I got
yeah, that's
I got back
awesome,
on the
man.
Witch Queen, man. So how about
So
you?
no, okay, so before saying that, so there's this guy that taught wrote for the low sodium gaming, Devlin Senpai. He said he was basically, I think he was calling me out. He basically asked me about my thoughts on open world gaming, on whether or not uh, my experiences were based more on choice because I decided to go on these side quests instead of
Yeah,
going
yes,
into
I
the.
remember that. Yeah.
So like he makes a really valid point, and I wanted to talk about that because I completely agree with you. I think now that you mentioned that comment, I can see now that I what I really want is good side stories. Not so much like I am distracted, but more good side stories. So this leads up to Cyberpunk 2077. So that's the game that I've been playing right now, and I absolutely love that game. So like Cyberpunk 2077 has you having a main quest, but in that main quest, it kind of it's so good at putting the side quests together. So just to give you a background, so the guy is dying. That's a plot twist in itself. The guy is dying, and the way that it's describing it is like you're dying, but we want you to do all these side quests so you can become a legend before you die.
Uh huh.
Because the main character, that's he know like ever since the game started, he always talked about death. Like I want to go out with a bang. Like I don't want to go out with a whimper. I don't want to just die and be a nobody. So like that's your chance to do all these side quests so you can gain respect, and become this like amazing person before you die. I have not finished it, but honestly, like Cyberpunk 2077 is it's so surprising how good it is. I'm sur it's given all the flack that it got, I get it because it did have a lot of glitches. It absolutely had a lot of glitches. I will be one of those that I'll tell you, like when it first came out, I bought it full price. I bought it full price because CD price. And the funny thing is, I didn't play it. And Chris, this is yeah, I'm glad that I'm glad we talk about this. Chris, I didn't play that game until a year and 2 months after the initial release. I refused to play it. I bought it,
So
and I got I got all the flack. I was reading all the comments. I was reading all the reviews. It got so much flack, and I completely get it. Like that, it deserved that flack. But I know CD Projekt Red, and I know the quality of games that it does bring to the table. And as a supporter of their genius, I wanted to make sure that I put in my 2 cents, so like and support their game, their company, because honestly, like they have really good ideals, they have really good ideas, and I I thought that like buying a game full price would have been a good investment. And now that they've worked so hard to get it on par with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, it's like I am super happy to have waited. Chris, that was
so
my most anticipated game of 2022. It's fucking hilarious.
my
I mean,
my
apologize for the bad
I did a whole video on like kind of the way that that game released and how it's so common now, right? Um, but that game, I fully intended to buy that game. I really did. Like I was prepared to buy it and everything. I was looking forward to it. It was one of the first times where I actually was getting excited about a release, right? Like I wasn't
one.
like when Elden Ring was announced, I wasn't excited because they were like, "Oh, we don't know when it's coming out." So I was just like, "Whatever, put that on the back burner." You
You
saw
know,
those long ass gameplay trailers, and like they were going
hmm
all in depth about all these options, and the game didn't really turn out to be what they were presenting it as. Whatever.
but
I
you know,
just didn't get
and
around to buying it.
and
Like
and
the
Chris,
reviews
like
came out and all that stuff, and I was
I
just
don't know,
like, I'm not gonna get it right now. So
and
I
Chris,
do intend on playing it. It's just like I didn't want to spend the money until it was in a good spot. Now that it's in a good spot, I'm probably
now
gonna pick it up.
yeah, now it's in a definitely good spot. But Chris, I'm telling you, like I don't. So like I've been reading a lot about like we thought that this game was gonna revolutionize gaming. I never actually thought that, but I did expect to give me a hell of a story, like
Yeah,
The Witcher 3, because The Witcher 3 gave me a hell of a story, and that's exactly what Cyberpunk 2077 did. So this morning I got up before my wife. I got up like around 6 o'clock in the morning. I booted up the game, and I was in a mission with this woman called Pan Am. And Pan Am, I needed her help because I needed to get this guy to get some information. So she rigs a power plant system, and as the ship of this where this guy is traveling through passes through the power plant, she blows up the power plant to like have EMP burst out of the power plant, and it like almost shoots down the spacecraft. It doesn't. It does like it kind of like shooks the shocks the spacecraft, but it continues to fly. So she gets out of their vehicle, gets a bazooka out of her trunk, and then shoots the spacecraft out of the freaking sky. And you just like, what is going on here? It's like it's epicness all over. I am just like, oh my god, this is
it sounds ridiculous
amazing.
in a good way.
Yeah, it's such a good story, and like I Pan Am, she is such a like a good written character, and I am just loving it. Like I had a lot of things going on today, But I'm like, all this time is I had all these other things going on today. All I'm thinking is like I cannot wait to go back to Cyberpunk 2077.
No, I hear you, man. It's definitely something like we keep saying it every episode. I've said it, man. I have a backlog a mile long, and so
Yeah, I get
you
it.
got to be real choosy about what you play next.
Yeah, yeah. So like I'm finishing that. I'm finishing Cyberpunk 2077. I wanna play Deathloop, and then I wanna go into Elden Ring. So it's Elden Ring. Like it's funny because Elden Ring is on the top, right? But Star Wars, the Skywalker, Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker edition or whatever,
Uh huh.
the complete edition is also on my mind. I've been thinking about that a lot. I'm like, oh man, I really want to play Star Wars, the Lego Star Wars edition or the Skywalker edition. It's
it
like it looks so good. Like I'm not sure if
it
you've
looks
seen
well
it, but
done. I've only watched a
yeah.
little bit of it. I did think about picking it up, but I'm probably not going to. It's just
Mm,
again thinking about what I actually want to play and what I want to put my time into. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I know. And it's rough. It's rough because you've I think you and me like talked a little bit about it. Like you saw my backlog, and you said it yourself. Like you are playing every video game possible. I'm playing Tales of Arise. I'm playing Scarlet Nexus. I'm playing Control. I'm playing the Spider-Man series. It's like I'm just playing everything, and it's just like, oh man, it's a lot. It is a lot, but
yeah.
I'll get through it.
So with that, today we're talking about our most underrated games we feel that didn't receive the praise
That it deserved.
that it deserved, games that everybody probably should play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're only doing 3 this time because 5 took a while. So
An hour and like 20 minutes.
yeah, I don't think we even got off track too much either. Like we were just
Yeah,
yeah.
no.
So you went first last time, so I'll go first this time.
All
All
right.
right. So number 3, my my third most underrated game is Soma. Have you heard of it?
Soma, Soma. I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I think if I Google it really fast and I see the picture, Soma, isn't that like a first person like story game? Yeah, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. I
So
think
it's
yeah,
it's
go for
it's
it.
it's like kind of a horror game. Like people were trying to say it was scary. It's not really scary. There are jumps and stuff in it, but the whole premise, right? The whole premise is what like has me locked on this game. And I know the case I'm about to make for this is the same thing that I held against BioShock Infinite, right?
Mhm.
But the story made me think long after I beat the game. Like I beat this game years ago. Last time I played this game was in 2015, and I still think about it. So you start off the game as this dude who's has a disease. He's going to die. He knows he's going to die. He goes in for this procedure for his brain to get scanned, right? Like he thinks he's just
Mhm.
going to get it scanned for like cancer or something. He finishes that. He goes home, goes to bed, wakes up, and he's in this underwater facility. And he's like, "What the hell is going on?" Turns out they scanned his brain and were able to input it, basically copy his consciousness, copy
Mhm.
him into a robot. And the
Mhm.
whole thing is trying to get to like the world is ending, right? And they're trying to get their consciousness into something called an arc.
Mhm.
And so there's this whole idea of like, are you you? Are you like, are you alive if you died hundreds of years ago? There's several points in the game where like he has to transfer to like different robots to give him different abilities,
Mhm.
but you watch that robot die. So the guy you were just playing as, the you were, is gone, but you're still here. And it's like this whole it's an amazing game. It's an amazing story. Now the gameplay is it does get old after a while. Like it's kind of like the thing where like if you see the monster too many times, it's no longer scary. It's more
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah.
It's like that, and I I think because this game is shorter, this is on the shorter end, it didn't wear out its welcome. And I just, again, it's one of these games where I think about it all the time solely based on like the story. I will say the ending, I think they should have flipped the endings. I'm not going to spoil it just in case somebody wants to go back and play it, but I think they should have flip flopped it, and it would have left a deeper impression, like on me.
So my understanding of Soma, so I remember reading about this. So my understanding of Soma is it's also questioning whether you are still alive if your consciousness was transferred into a robot, because it's like it's not even transferred, it's copied. Your
Yeah, it's
consciousness is
copied.
copied,
Yeah.
and so like now you're being questioned. Did like do you are you still alive, or is it
So
that
the original guy has been dead for God knows how long, right? He's gone,
exactly?
and so when you wake back up, it's a copy,
It's
and
a
then
copy. Yeah,
you get
you're not
copied
alive.
several you get copied several times throughout that, and so it brings up the thing of like what is life, what it does it mean to be human, and all this other stuff. Like it's a good it
Did you ever see Invincible, the cartoon in
yeah
Amazon Prime?
yeah
So remember Invincible? And like I think in the last two episodes, one of the main superheroes, it turns out that it was a robot. It was a
oh yeah
robot,
him
but
yeah
it turns out that it was actually a disformed person that like he was super intelligent, but he couldn't survive without being in a container, and he really liked this girl, so he decided to make a copy, like transfer his consciousness from himself to a normal person. But there came a point where the guy was the strong figure was alive, was still alive, and the person where the consciousness was transferred started waking up, and they started talking to each other, and he realized then that he understood that he is going like the main person will die, but the copy of his consciousness will continue living on. So he knew that he was gonna die regardless. Like it wasn't like he was gonna be immortal. He was just
yeah.
gonna die, and then like this other person that had his consciousness was continuing living. It is a question that has been brought a lot actually in video games, and it's because it's also something that I think it's closely maybe becoming possible in the future
Yeah, I mean
where
they people are so like, and I do want to do an episode on like the future of gaming. We'll get into that kind of stuff. But,
Mhm.
Elon Musk has those robots and like he has dang, Neuralink, the thing that's supposed to hook your mind up to computers and stuff like that, and people are talking about oh maybe, transferring consciousness to these robots and all this other stuff, right? And like it's all over media from Upload on Amazon to even the old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Sixth Day,
Mhm.
covers stuff like this, and I think it's a really interesting concept, and like it was able to go more in depth in this game than a lot of other forms of media. Like I haven't read anything that kind of deals with this, but like this is the first time I've encountered this kind of subject where it was so in depth and it made you question a lot of things. But yeah, that's my number three. I think it's a great game for what it's
Mhm.
worth. Took me about it says 10 hours. I think I beat it in about 8. So you can knock it out, on a weekend.
Mhm. Yeah, I've played some of those. Yeah, I'm not sure if you've heard about Observer.
Yeah, actually, I think I have it. I just haven't played it yet.
Yeah, so Observer, I think they were made from by the same company. I played Observer. I thought that was pretty cool. So Observer looks very similar to Cyberpunk 2077 in the art style at least. And I tend to like that type of art style where it's like
Yeah.
it's the future but you're still using 1980s technology in some of those. Like it's like the Blade Runner series.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so like okay, so now it's my turn. So number three, so I wanted to do underrated games because I thought that this number three and it should be on my top of the list. I'm gonna put it number three because there are other two that I think very strongly of. and that's Infinite Warfare Call of Duty. So the Infinite Warfare, the Call of Duty game, has not received a lot of love. In fact, when the trailer came out at I believe it was 2015 or 2016 when the trailer first came out, it got one of the most disliked in any video game trailer of all time in YouTube. Um, and I when I played it, I actually loved it. It was the best story that I've played in a Call of Duty game. I
Not gonna
think
lie to you. I
what's
played
up?
that game. I bought it day one. I played a lot of the multiplayer. I played through the story, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't
Hmm.
remember any of that story.
Yeah, so I remember a lot of the story, and I remember the story because a I, so like I am in the business of space, and I also am in the business of the future of space warfare. And I saw that Infinite Warfare had really good ideas of how our future is gonna look like in a couple hundred years. I appreciated that that direction. And even though a lot of it obviously there's a lot of fake stuff like any Call of Duty game, but even though that there was that was there, I was very surprised of I really enjoyed how realistic it was heading into that direction. I was looking into I was looking into the future and seeing like, wow, this is where we're going,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
I also appreciated the story. So, is now we're, I Chris was military. I'm still military, and one of the things that I really enjoyed about it was that the main character was unwilling to make sacrifices, big decisions based on the casualty that they would be receiving on their end. So
Yeah.
like Reyes, that's the main character, he was very like he every time he made a decision, it always broke them because he didn't want to lose any men. So in this franchise, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, what it did was like care for your men, but also remember what is the mission. And that was the main topic of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I I really respected how they did that and how at the end of the game he sacrificed himself for the greater good. I I really like Reyes. I really like Salt, the his XO executive officer. She was a badass too. I thought that was a very heartwarming and heartbreaking story. At the end of it, they won, right? The
Yeah.
good guys won, but it wasn't like a it wasn't like a complete victory in the sense that everybody was still alive. People died, and those people's deaths like meant something. Like they sacrificed themselves willingly because they knew there was something bigger that they needed to do. I totally respected that. There was some very mature themes in there, and I think people got upset at it more because of the multiplayer than the
Yeah.
campaign. But I was very much in. I was in the campaign. Like
You know, it
I ate that stuff.
it's hard to please that demographic, right? Like you can't change too much because Advanced Warfare kind of started it with the wall running and the exosuits and stuff like that, and then people they went back to World War II, and people were like, well, this is just whatever. And then even with Modern Warfare, them remaking Modern Warfare, people were upset about the map, the mini map change and all this stuff. So it's like people it's hard to please the people that play Call of Duty because they want the same thing, but they don't. And it's hard to find out exactly what it was. And I think that's part of the reason why Infinite Warfare didn't do that well, you know.
Mhm. No, I get it. I get that part. I I guess like I think Infinite Warfare wanted to say more than what any other Call of Duty wanted to say in the past. I think Modern Warfare 2 was a great game, but what was it actually trying to say in the philosophical
I,
aspect of it? I think Infinite Warfare had a lot to say about in the philosophical aspect, and I think was that that was watered or that was forgotten because they like people focused too much on the multiplayer. I think that Call of Duty Infinite Warfare had a lot to say about our future and the future of warfare. I was very impressed. They
that's
gave
what's
a
up.
lot of love to it, and I don't think the developers got the love back that they deserved.
Cool. Well,
Anyway,
number
yeah,
two, my number two is Ghost Runner.
I played that. Yeah, you told me about that.
That game that game hits all the buttons for me. I could care less about the story in that game. I'll be honest with you. Like I remember some pieces of it, but it was all about the gameplay for me. So for those that are unaware, Ghost Runner is essentially a cyberpunk themed parkour ninja simulator, right? Like you can die in one shot, you die in one hit, but you get powers and upgrades to just basically be a cyber ninja, and it's freaking amazing. The music helps
Hmm.
induce the flow state.
It had a cyberpunk feeling, right?
Oh
Like it
yeah,
had a.
oh yeah, it does. I mean, everything from like the grittiness of the environments to like the character himself. Like you see, like he is just this cybernetic guy with a robotic hand and a a sword with neon
Yeah.
highlights and stuff like that. Like it has that that aesthetic to it. I don't have a lot to say other than like a lot more people should play this game simply because it's real fun. I mean,
It's fast. So like I'll help you out. Like the game is fast paced. It's like a trial and error type of game where you're like you don't like you do something wrong, you go back to it, but when you finally get to that perfect spot, like you're like freaking kicking butt, and like you feel so good about it
yeah,
because it is so fast
it's
paced.
made to get the run right. Like it's made to like the way that you easily can restart a run, like, oh, you mess up, you died, it instantly loads back up and bam, you're right back at it.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
when I did play it, when I first started playing it on PC, there was, of course, some issues. There was like some latency issues. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but basically, I would move my mouse and he wouldn't move right away, or I would try and like press a button for a certain action to happen, and it wouldn't happen like it was supposed to, and I would die. It
Hmm.
got patched. Like I put it down for a little bit. It got patched, and like it was smooth sailing from there. But yeah, it's on point. It's really well done. Again, it's not a long game, but you can put a lot of time into it just trying to get
Hmm.
those perfect runs. It's built for speed running. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it is, and I enjoy. I haven't finished it. I played the demo, and I thought that was a really intense demo. It's on my backlog. Don't get me. It's definitely on my backlog. Yeah, so I'm gonna play it.
AKA, I'm never getting to it.
Yeah, it's gonna like you know me. I play it eventually. You'll see me like 2 years later, like I finally played it. I finally finished it, but I'll get to it. All right. So are you good?
Yeah, yeah, I'm all done with it. I just
All
highly
right.
recommended.
All right, so uh my second one is actually an oldie. It's the one of the most underrated games that of all time, and it unfortunately it it didn't get the love that it deserved because it came out really fast, like a year after the biggest hit of all time, which was Knights of the Old Republic. So Knights of the Republic came out, right, and then right after this is where my second comes in. Right after, a year later, Obsidian Entertainment had to make another game, which was Knights of the Old Republic 2. So Obsidian Entertainment had only like so much time to develop one of the best games that I've ever played that I've just like completely blew my mind, and that was Knights of the Old Republic 2. So Knights of the Old Republic 2 takes um, it's obviously like the second one after the immediate sequel after Knights of the Republic 1. And if anybody knows about Knights of the Republic 1, it had one of the best twists too, where you are playing the main villain in the game and you didn't even know about it until like three three-fourths of the game in.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard about
that's
that. Yeah.
that's Revan. So then comes Knights of the Old Republic 2, where it is such a philosophical game, but some people didn't play it because Obsidian Entertainment had like these all these glitches to work with that still have that were still showing up in the game. But now that they fixed it, if you go back to it, like it is one of the best stories that I've ever heard, that I've ever written. I'm sure anybody that's played Knights of the Republic 2 remembers Kreia. Kreia is one of the best villains that has been written in a Star Wars game. And Kreia is actually uh, one of the people that, if anybody plays Knights of the Republic 2, understands what happened in The Last Jedi. So, in The Last Jedi, for Luke Skywalker, a lot of people were upset that Luke Skywalker was darker, upset. He was like he was upset at the Jedi Order. He didn't want to become a Jedi. But for me, it made perfect sense because I played Knights of the Old Republic 2. So in Knights of the Old Republic 2, Kreia was questioning the Jedi Order. She was the main villain, but she was also like a person that was neither Sith or Jedi. She was
Hmm.
questioning the Jedi Order because she said, and it made perfect sense. We we are creating Jedi, and as we're creating Jedi, we're also creating Sith. Have you noticed that the Sith that cut like this that create the most destruction were Jedi first? It's because there's something utterly wrong with the Jedi code. And we need to figure out what is wrong with that Jedi code. It is, instead of living life with either dark or light, why don't we just live in the gray? Why does everything have to be left or right?
Yeah.
And and Kreia sold that. Like she was really passionate. She, at the end of it, she she didn't regret what she did, but she was definitely like, maybe she could have done things differently because she went full dark at one point. But that mentality that Kreia had affected a lot of players looking into The Last Jedi. So when they saw that Luke Skywalker was like, something's off about the Jedi Order. Why is it that every time that we create like the Jedi Order, like there's an opposing effect to it? Like we create Sith, and in Luke Skywalker's mentality, he created Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
It's like he was training him, and he was seduced by the dark side, and he created the destruction of the dark side. And I know that the Rise of Skywalker tried to like adjust all those things, and I get why some people were upset, but if anybody played that side of the Star Wars Knights of the Republic 2, they would really understand where Luke Skywalker was coming from. And it really changed my perspective of the Force, of the light side and the dark side. Not to mention that it had amazing gameplay. It was very similar gameplay to Knights of the Republic 1, but still, man, like that those stories like were really good. Like
So
BioWare was on the
those themes are starting to be explored in Destiny 2 as well, where like you're starting to take on the powers of the darkness, and the powers of the light have been granted to the hive, and you're trying to figure out like why would the traveler do this, and then you're kind of getting to the point where are the understanding that they're just tools, right? Like the light and the darkness are just tools, and it's up to the it's up to the entity or whoever it is wielding those powers to use
Hmm.
it in what way. And it sounds like you're that same point. Like like, well, I haven't played. I never played KOTOR 2. It's just like somehow I missed it. Like when you're talking about when these games came out, like access to the internet was a little hard for me living in the country. But
Hmm. Yeah, it came
like,
out in 2005, 2004, I believe.
yeah, so like getting a hold of it was a little hard. And like by the time I did hear it, like we were moving into a different console generation. But like you hear them all the time, and I really think those games deserve a remake. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Or
No, I
did they announce it?
I know that Knights of the Republic, the first one, is gonna get a remake, and I hope it's a good one. Like, it is definitely one of my most anticipated games. It does sadden me a lot that Bioware, and we can honestly, I want to make a whole, like, I know other podcasts on Bioware itself, from its high points all the way to its lowest points, but I don't understand why Bioware didn't pursue the Star Wars theme. They had, like, honestly, every time that you hear about BioWare, they always think that, like, people that mention BioWare always think about Knights of the Republic and the storyline in Knights of the Republic. I don't understand why they couldn't make the third one, Knights of the Republic 3. Like, it's like, what were you guys thinking? Like,
It's
you
it's
guys
it
keep
always
you,
turns out it always comes back to money, man, and who owns the property rights. And I feel like that probably fell through. Like that's what it always boils down to.
I mean, Lucas, at that point it wasn't Disney, right? So, like, at that point it was Disney. I think LucasArts was pretty amicable at, like, the property, as long as, like, even like people had brought up shitty games from LucasArts, but LucasArts still's like, okay, whatever, next game. I don't think it was that hard. I just think that Bioware's like, oh, we're gonna do another one, a completely different version. F the fans. Like, like, that's how I feel like Bioware has been. Like, Bioware's been like, F the fans, we're gonna do another one. So, like, Mass Effect was their baby, and honestly, Mass Effect was really good. Um, but then afterwards, it just kept going down and down.
It,
Like
it
I,
I mean, like it's the same like when you're talking about, say, maybe a unit in the army, right, where you have like great commanders, you have great leadership, everybody knows, people are well trained, people give a shit, and then
Mhm.
people start to PCS, people start to leave, and people get promoted and they move out, and it's still you know 3 BSTB, like it's still that unit, it's still the nothing's changed. The guide on is still the same, right?
Mhm.
But it's not the same,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And so like that's kind of what it is. And like I'm kind of like GTA 5, GTA 6 has been kind of announced, and they like, yeah, we're working on it. Um, but the the company's changed. A lot of those people have left that made those games what they are.
I know, Dan Hauser is the guy
Yeah,
that wrote GTA, all the other GTA's, and some of the Max Payne games too. So he wrote Max Payne 3. I thought Max Payne 3 is a really good game.
I
So,
enjoy it. A lot of people didn't because it wasn't done by Remedy, and they feel like it does have a different feel than the other two games. But though, I mean, like I enjoyed it. I actually think, and I don't replay games often, right? And I think I
mhm.
replayed that like 3 times just because
Yeah,
it's just fun
it
as
was
hell to
fun.
play.
It was a fun, and then, like, and Max Payne 2, like, some of the best quotes in any of the three Max Paynes came from there. I remember one time I was dying when he was in Brazil. He was at a shootout in a nightclub, and he's like this. He said something to this effect. It feels like Baghdad on G strings. I'm like, I am dying. I mean, who says that? It's like, it was such a good game. Anyway, we digress. All right, so I said my number two, Knights of the Old Republic 2, like it's on iOS, it's on Xbox.
It's
You know,
wild to think like games that we had to spend a few $100 for a console can just run on your phone.
yeah, exactly. It's crazy, but if you haven't played it, I really suggest that you have. If you played it, don't worry about it. It's it's a game that gets old because like the game like in Knights of the Republic, it's a good game, right? But like now that you've played it, like you experience other gameplay, it does feel
Yeah, like the
old.
mechanics didn't age well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it that yeah, it does feel old, but it was one of the most underrated games that I felt deserved a lot more attention than what it did.
All
But
right. So my number one, I had to think about this long and hard, right? But my number one underrated game is Sleeping Dogs.
really,
Yes, my like I feel that game
I finished that game.
deserved way more success than it got.
I don't know, man. I found it super boring.
That game is amazing.
I
Sleeping
finished
Dogs
it.
is
I
like
finished it.
it
It
is
was.
like a John Woo movie from the 90s. It is like hard boil. You feel like Chow Yun Fat. You know, like you're playing as Win Shay. He's an undercover
Mhm,
cop. He knows the people that he's trying to take down. He's in turmoil about all of that. You know, people die. He's conflicted. He gets into that gang life and he's about that shit. But then he remembers he's a cop and he's gotta rat people out and send them to jail.
mhm.
That shit is amazing. And then it was like one of the I wouldn't say one of the first games, but it's one of the first games that took the Batman Arkham series fighting style and
Mm.
actually made it good. They just weren't copying it. They made it their own. And
I don't
so
know.
like
Batman Arkham City is probably like it's like so like we need to do a top like three games. Arkham City is definitely there. I don't know. Like I I I played Sleeping Dogs. I found some of the gameplay good, especially when you're killing people based on the environment that you're in, like you're throwing them into
yes,
fans and stuff.
yes,
I
man.
Yeah, I remember that. It's just that like I found the story lacking. So like I need to
Nah.
have a good story.
Nah,
It, it,
this story is there. It might be the type of story that you don't like. You know what
mm,
I mean? Like I don't know, cause like and again like growing up, I was really into like kung fu movies and all that stuff. So like this whole like the fighting the way the fighting and even getting new moves made sense because you had to go to the dojo and train, right? Like this wasn't just like, oh, let me spend some points and I know how to do a roundhouse kick now. Like no, I go here, yeah, I still spend points, but then they have you practice with it and it makes sense. Like the only I think my only real drawback for the game was driving. Like the driving just seemed off,
mhm.
and like I didn't I didn't really like to drive anywhere. I think that's my main sticking point with this game. But like at the time, visually it looked really good. Man, when the game came out, I bought it by chance. So like I didn't even read reviews for it. I was just looking for something to play. Um, it was at Benning actually, and
Mhm.
that night that night I played that game. Didn't realize how long I was playing. It was
Mhm.
like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Like I started maybe at like 9. My
Mhm.
my wife went to bed. I realized, oh shit, the sun's about to come up. I hopped into bed. She was like, "What time is it?" And I was like, 1. I basically lied.
Mhm.
I lied. Hopped into bed and was like, "It's gonna be a long day," because I knew she was gonna wake me
Mm,
up early
yeah.
because we had something to do. So it was just
Yeah.
like this weird thing, man, where I fell in love with what it was and thoroughly enjoyed it. Like that
It's
opening
it.
cinematic when you're
I
chasing that
only do
dude.
that with sub from software games now. Like I only did like seriously like any from software game that I play, I'll spend until like freaking 5 o'clock in the morning playing. Then I'll hit the bed and I'll regret like my decisions for the rest of my day. It's
Yeah,
so
like
freaking
shit, I need to wake up in 2 hours, but
funny. Yeah,
it's worth it. I'll do it again. But
yeah.
yeah, that's
Do
my
P
number one,
do PT. Like oh my goodness for me. Yeah, it's terrible. All right. So my number one, I actually struggle with this because I'm gonna mention that like the one that was a contender, and that was Yakuza Like a Dragon. It was the first Yakuza that I played, and I asked you to review it. I remember this, and you couldn't finish it because I think it was because in the PC was too glitchy.
It was just
And
one moment. Like the game ran smooth. I really was enjoying what I was doing, but it was
mhm.
one moment where I lost like a ton of progress, and like it just killed all motivation to keep playing. Like,
Yeah, so yeah, and I remember that in Yakuza Like a Dragon. I remember that I bought it in December of 2020. I remember playing it. I remember my wife was watching it too, and I remember that it had a really deep story. But then again, Yakuza is a famous series,
yeah,
and we are talking about underrated games. And Yakuza is, I don't think it's on the caliber underrated. I think it's actually like it's been very successful, and they're gonna come out with a sequel now. And I'm
yeah,
very happy about that. So, and what comes to mind is actually an underrated game that was overshadowed by other games that came out at around the same time period, and that's Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So, I played the first two. I hated the first one. I
really,
liked the second one. I liked the second one a little bit more. The third one was just amazing. And I at the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I put it as my most underrated one is because it wasn't successful. It's like people didn't buy it that much, and I was very surprised. And honestly, like I'll be honest, Lara is not a very likable person. She's not. In these three games, especially in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but I respect that. I respect that about the developers. They did it on purpose.
hmm
So in this game, Lara is obsessed with finding certain treasures, and you can see it. And she is willing. She she thinks that she's the only one that could save everybody or that can like make a difference by finding these treasures, and she'll forget everybody else in the process.
yeah.
It's like people are dying.
I think as like out of those three, because I haven't played Shadow of the Tomb Raider yet. I got it for free on the Epic Game Store, but I played the other two on Steam, and I enjoyed the first one. The second one was like, okay, but like the running theme with her is that she's about getting to her goal and kind of screw everybody else. And so I'm really surprised. Like I forget dude's name, but he's with her all three games, and it's
Yeah,
like, man, I would have dipped out on Laura the first one.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. He's I think he's Samoan.
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
completely.
yeah. I don't know exactly. He looks Samoan, but um, I I understand who you're talking about, and I honestly thought that he was gonna. He keeps coming back in every game, and I honestly thought that he was gonna leave her completely. But he is necessary for the storyline because there is one point in the video game where she thinks that he is killed because of her obsessions, and you see Lara just losing her shit, just completely turning dark and just assassinating everybody that she sees on in front of her. And it was like that moment, I'm like, holy crap, this Lara is a very complicated individual. She's not very likable. And I respect that because they're creating a character that is not funny. They're not. She doesn't like do quips. She doesn't do like you know, like she does. She's not Nathan Drake or Chloe Fraser from the Uncharted ones, right? But
Yeah,
she is her own character, and I gotta respect that from the developers. They're making a character that it's their own, you know,
yeah,
and I love that about them. I love that she's complex. I love that she is. She is selfish, and she pays the price for her selfishness. Like, and I love that. It's a and not only that, it's called Shadow of the Tomb Raider, because one thing that I hated about the Uncharted games is the constant battling, the forcing of battle
Hmm.
to fight. And they did it also in Tomb Raider, and they did it in Rise of the Tomb Raider, where you're forced to fight in some sections. Not every like Rise of the Tomb Raider did a little bit better job, but then finally in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, every encounter that you did was
Yeah.
completely optional to fight. It's like you could have either escaped or you could have taken them out silently. And if you were caught, you could hide again and like start all over again doing the stealth. It's
Yeah.
like you had so many options for stealth that it made the game very accessible to me and more realistic, right? So like for me, it's all about realism, and I just for Uncharted games, it was all action and like you like okay, it's like a B movie flick where you're just shooting all that stuff, and this one, it's like a freaking woman that is a fucking ninja. And like just she's just taking people out secretly from the shadows. That's why it's called Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It is very focused on Lara's ninja skills,
What I
and I
really
love that.
enjoy about those games is the kind of tie-in to like mythical stuff, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Like Uncharted does it, and this latest Tomb Raider series does it, and I enjoy that. Like I'm not sure if it's Shadow of the Tomb Raider because I did watch some streams of it on Twitch and stuff like that, where I think she finds Jesus. Like Jesus is just a dude chilling in in some secret location, right? And I was like, man, like that's cool. Like it feels like territory people normally wouldn't go to, and so
Uh-huh.
it's like interesting to
Yeah,
see.
are you talking about Rise of the
I'm
Tomb
not
Raider?
sure which one it is because I watch streams of
I think
Shadow
I think I think it's Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Rise.
So
Okay, so that one I did play.
it wasn't Jesus. It was a saint. So like it was. I forget his name, but it was a saint, and he believes in God and stuff. But in actuality, the twist was that it wasn't that he had powers. Is that it was a meteor that fell from like from space,
Yeah,
and it was giving him powers of immortality. So like once she destroyed that meteor, everybody, including him, died. But he was willing to make the sacrifice to save his people.
yeah. But it's awesome how they roll that in. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's cool how they rolled all that stuff in and just kind of make it feel like it could be real, and
Mm-hmm.
that's I think that's pretty cool. Like I enjoyed that.
And like now switching a little bit, an honorable mention because I wanted to mention it's an honorable mention. It's Resident Evil 3.
Like
So
the
Resident
first not the
the
remake, the first one.
the remake,
Okay.
the Resident Evil 3 remake. So everybody loves Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is like it brought Resident Evil back to the spotlight. It was such a good game. Mr.
Resident Evil
X.
2, I haven't gotten to 3 yet, but I just want to say, and I put a thing out on this too. I think that's one of the best games I've ever played. Um yeah, I'll just leave it at that, but I honestly feel like Resident Evil 2, the remake is one like I never
Oh,
played Resident Evil 2, like the
yeah.
original. I never played it. I
No, me
did
neither.
play 3. I did play Nemesis. Um but I think this remake is one of the best games I've ever played. Just
Yeah,
hands
so
down.
I completely agree with you. Like I remember playing Resident Evil 2, and we can leave it like we can do a podcast later on like the best like games that we've played. I'm sure Resident Evil 2 will be like maybe among them. So there's a lot of good games that we played, but I would say that Resident Evil 3 came at the heels of Resident Evil 2. So a lot of people were upset because Resident Evil 3 had a shorter campaign. I think you can finish the game in 5, 6 to 7 hours. And I remember that it got a lot of flack because it was short. But honestly, like when I played Resident Evil 3, it was just action packed. Like, and it was so good. I finished Resident Evil 2. I jumped into Resident Evil 3. I was like, wow, the quality of this game is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Jill Valentine looks amazing. Like her facial features, it's just like
Whatever
wow.
whatever
Like
magic they did in that engine is like completely impressive.
yes, I know. So like you see the different like you see like already Resident Evil 2 is impressive. When you go to Resident Evil 3 and the facial animations of Resident Evil 3, it's like wow. It's just completely wow. And then like it was action packed. It had its terror vibes. I enjoyed the terror vibes. It was a lot of action too, but I also enjoyed the tie-in of Resident Evil 2. Uh, I I felt that it could have served better as a DLC. Maybe I don't know. Like I think it's like if you talk about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and you talk about the Dawn of Ragnarok, which is a whole other expansion, which is like 30 hours long, right? So
Hmm.
it's more like that, and like Resident Evil 3 serves like a direct sequel, and I thought it was perfect for me. I enjoyed it, especially for someone that like is lacking time sometimes. Like I sat down, I played it, I over the weekend, and I was super satisfied when I was done with it. It like Nemesis itself was such a good villain in the sense that
You
it
were scared?
I was I was yeah you're right. I was scared, but you're actually you're right. I was just scared. I still hate the power plant. You haven't played Resident Evil 3, but like there's a power plant scene where you have to go into a power plant and turn the power plant on to gain power to gain access to the train station, and there's like critters inside of it, and it was just so freaking like for me like it was so nerve wracking. So yeah, I want to mention Resident Evil 3. It deserves a high price. If you haven't played it, now it's a good time to do it, man. Because like if you thought that $60 was too expensive, like okay, I get it. I put it on because I think Capcom deserved it. Like Capcom really did a good job on Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. Um, but like now it's the time to get it because lower price. I think you should definitely try it out if
Yeah,
you
I
play
got it
Resident Evil.
already. Like I haven't. I own it. I bought it on sale like a year and some change ago.
Yeah, so yeah, those are my top three and my honorable mention. I'm glad that I put it at honorable mention. Man, I was struggling. Shadow of the Tomb Raider or Resident Evil.
Yeah, I
So,
the only honorable mention that I kept thinking about putting on my list was Hyper Light Drifter.
hmm
Great game, gives you the old school Zelda feel. Great music, great vibe. They were able to convey a story where no words were spoken, no words were written, but you were still able to kind of get what was going on. And the bosses, like the gameplay was solid. Like the
hmm
mechanics, mechanics worked well with what they were trying to do. Um, but yeah, that was one I kept like putting on and taking off my list.
yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, I think we're done with the freaking list. Three and go. And it actually challenges us, right? Because now it's three. So now we're really like, oof.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well,
Yeah, who's gonna make the list on this one? I'm glad that I mentioned Knights of the Republic too, though. That was and if honestly, the first two that I mentioned have been on my mind. Like Infinite Warfare and Knights of the Republic 2 deserved a lot of love, and they don't have it from the community.
it is what it is, man. It sucks, but people they see the reviews come, they see reviews come out, and they kind of like make up their mind beforehand. And now that we're in this time where you can experience a game without actually playing it, and I think I touched on this before, the experience of playing it can be different than what you see, but it does let you know, like, am I interested in this? And so some games just won't get the love that they probably deserve because people won't pick it up.
Mhm. Mhm. All
But all
right,
right,
man.
that's it. Y'all, if you made it this far, do appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. If you find us somewhere else, I don't know what all you can do on those platforms, but do it. Share it
Yeah,
with your friends, and we'll see you next week.
yeah, we're on Apple, I believe Spotify, I think a Spreaker, and YouTube. So if you are in any of those, subscribe, like or dislike, or write your opinions. Please do. As you can see, we read them and we mention them. So like if it's a good comment, we'll definitely mention it and say our own thoughts about it. We are very relaxed. We are not gonna get upset at those comments. We're actually gonna say like, hey, you're absolutely right. That's actually a good comment that you're making, and we'll address it. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much, guys, for your support.
All right, we'll catch y'all next time. Later.
Take care.